Welcome to the Tuesday Review. I'm Nathan, as always, joined by Callum and James. How you going, guys?
Not bad.
So this week's something a little different. We got hit up a couple weeks ago to review a movie called The Last Deal, which we hadn't heard of.
Yeah. Well,
it's out in some markets, but it hasn't come out in Australia.
Yeah, so the people behind the movie reached out and said, hey, would you be interested in reviewing this? And we said, yeah, sure. And they sent us a copy. It's not available yet in Australia, but it had a limited theatrical run in the States, and it's out on the States on VOD on like iTunes and Amazon Prime and Hulu, I think.
Yeah.
And I think it just got a UK and Ireland release.
Yes.
Yeah. But it's not available yet in Australia. But we thought, we'll give it a go and we'll put the word out.
Who are we to turn down a free movie?
That's what we're here for.
Yeah, and also, I mean, it's good to get the word out in Australia, even if it's not out here yet. Just let people know this is a thing, because otherwise, I don't think people in Australia would be keeping an eye out for these kind of thing.
So the movie's called The Last Deal. It's about a black market marijuana dealer who tries to make one final score before getting squeezed out of the business when cannabis becomes legal. It's set in California.
Yeah.
It's written and directed by Jonathan Salemi, if I'm saying that right. Salemi. Starring Anthony Molinari from HBO's Barry, Sala Baker from The Killer, Jeffrey Lauren from Temptation Island, Mr. Fitzgerald. I'm not sure if Mr's a first name.
No, yeah, that's his first name.
When I'm looking at a sheet here with all the information about the movie for listeners at home.
Yeah, no, that's his name, Mr.
And I'm like, I don't know, is it Mr. or is it Mr. Whoever, but it's a first name. So Mr. Fitzgerald, badass name, and Mike Ferguson. The music is by Tony Fiala and edited by Ryan Liebert. So the movie's done quite well overseas. We haven't had a chance to watch it in Australia yet. Hopefully it's coming.
I think what's interesting is because the premise is like you said, he has to get that one last deal before he gets pushed out of the business because weed's been legalized in California. Because I was like, how do you make a high stakes weed dealing movie? It seems like something that
I do like the premise where it's like he can't get his
dispensary license. Yeah, I like how the legalization is part of how the tension and
the shaking up of the market is causing him problems. Yeah.
So I think it's a good premise because unlike other drugs, marijuana has been legalized in a lot of states in America and is closer to being legalized in a lot of other places around the world than other drugs are. And so even though it feels like, how do you make a high-stakes weed movie, this is a good example of doing it, of going back to when, before it was legalized, people were living large, and then, it's legalized, yay, but also all these people who...
Yeah, all the black market dealers are struggling. It's an interesting movie.
And even the legit dealers were like...
Yeah. It's funny because it's a movie about the cannabis market, but it's not really about weed. You know what I mean? It's like that's the framing device.
It's not a drug movie. It's a crime thriller, and then the guy just happens to.
Yeah.
So what I like about this film is that he's a businessman. He's just a businessman.
He tries not to be a criminal.
Yeah, that's what I like about it. He has morals, and he kind of sticks to them as best he can.
You don't get high off your own supply, or in the main character Vince's case, you just don't get high at all because it's like
why would he throw money away?
Yeah. There's a part where there's a scene in the film where someone offers him some cocaine, and he's like, no thanks, and then he mutters to himself, Jesus Christ, and it reminded me of The Gentleman, how they're like they don't consider marijuana a drug as such. It's like, I wouldn't do drugs.
No, you know what I mean? It's a different class. That's what I was saying. It's just
it just makes me laugh, that idea that it's like, no, I'm a gentleman. I only smoke marijuana.
Yeah.
So the movie's doing quite well. It's
won some awards.
It's won some award. It went to the Boston International Film Festival. Also, shout out to the main character having a Boston accent.
Oh man,
he's such a Southie.
Car pack at the apartment.
Get back to my apartment. I'm like, respect. As you know, as Australians who also don't use we'll say roll our R's. Like, I appreciate it. Like,
it's completely different from the Australian.
Distant, but it's but we're cousins.
But as a Ben
wicked
Affleck
smart.
As a Ben Affleck fan, I appreciate it.
So it sold out at the Boston International Film Festival, and it won Best Director at Dances with Films. Which some sort of award of movies, I guess.
Yes, festival.
Yeah, and it won the Best Performance by Lead Actor at the San Antonio Film Festival.
Oh, cool.
So it's doing quite well.
Yeah. I guess we should say it's because it's about the main character Vince, played by Anthony Molinari, is it?
Yes.
And he, like we said, he's like getting pushed out of the business when weed becomes legalized cannabis becomes legalized in California, and he's like trying to make this one last deal, sort of to set himself up so that after his business fails, he and his girlfriend will be okay. But apparently, as written and directed by Jonathan Salemi, like we said, but apparently it's like loosely, partly based on a true story of someone that Jonathan knew, who this kind of happened to him. Not all the murdering and
all the bad stuff,
like really bad stuff, but like
all the good stuff.
Yeah, not even that. It's just about like having a marijuana business and then like getting kind of slowly business going down after legalization.
And there would look. Obviously, we don't live in America, but I would imagine the corruption kind of stuff with, because cannabis, it's all of these states that have legalized it. They're legal. It's legal at a state level, but it's not legal at a federal level. So there's, I would imagine, all kinds of grounds for corruption and kind of
100%. And there's a lot of red tape, and they deal with a bit of that in the movie of like,
when Anthony Molinari's character tries to get his license, and he's talking to some guys involved in that process.
Yeah,
and it's basically just like bribing them, and it's like, well, what else? What are you going to do about it? Kind of situation.
Yeah,
like, it's not legal federally. Go cry about it.
All these things add up as to like why he has to sort of go out of his way to make this one big last deal. But yeah, what I was saying was, it's like partially based on a true story, but also it's like a micro budget movie, so they made it quickly and cheaply. However, it is very, very good. It's a good looking movie, a good sounding movie. And they did a really good job of making it feel polished, like a bigger budget movie.
It looked fantastic.
Yeah. And because, it was shot, on the streets in or real locations in LA, and that adds to the kind of gritty, realistic element of it. And obviously, because they were working on a limited time and budget, it was all like shot without permits and just guerrilla filmmaking, like go out and shoot and get as much as you can. Hopefully the cops don't show up, kind of thing. But the movie doesn't feel...
It doesn't feel micro budget.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel as like scrappy or as a film might be if you say it's a guerrilla film or they shot it without permit. Yeah. It's like it feels very professionally well made.
And that's what surprised me the most about it, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, this is not a bad thing. I'm like, they could have shot it more scrappily and it would have been fine. It's like, okay, they were working on it. But the fact that it does look
it's
good
hard.
And polished and sounds good.
I mean, there's a reason a lot of the micro budget movies look the way they look, because it's very hard to make a micro budget movie look like a studio movie.
Yeah,
it's like stuff costs money. That's the reality of life. And to make a movie with little to no budget look this good is just a testament to the talent of the crew making the film to begin with.
And also, like, every almost every episode of this show, we talk about how we miss Hollywood movies where they used to go to locations, where things felt real, where actors felt like real people.
So you're saying the solution to all our problems is just to give the filmmakers less money?
We've been saying that.
Yeah. Movies cost too much. Yeah.
Again, you don't need $5 million to make your film. I'll give you $50,000.
We've also talked, but we've also talked about like on the other hand, there are some movies that's like they just need to throw money at this because this is just not working. But like
it's the $100 million movie problem.
Yeah, but we always talk about like we miss those old like 70s gritty kind of crime movies, and not even crime movies, like just 80s comedies where it's like, oh, this is a real place they shot at.
They're on the street. Yeah,
and it's like, oh, cool. Now movies are too fake, too digital, too polished.
Yeah.
And this movie, maybe just because of its budget, they used a lot of real locations or entirely real locations
out of necessity.
in LA. Yeah.
What else are you going to do?
But that actually helps the film to feel like a more classic 70s, 80s crime thriller, which is definitely what the movie's going for.
Yeah, 100%.
And it succeeds at that. Not just because there's like necessity.
They didn't have the luxury of CG
but because the director like knew what he wanted, and the cinematographer and the rest of the crew were really talented enough to work within the time and budget to make something look this good.
Is this Jonathan Salemi's first film?
I think he had another very low budget feature film about 10, 15 years ago.
Let's see.
But since then, it's just been like short films and stuff. So, I mean, this is his first kind of
big release in a while.
Notable feature film. But I don't think it's technically his first. But I mean, like...
he was a TV producer on Married at First Sight.
Hey, you got to work.
That's it.
That just caught me off guard.
No shade. Shade.
No shade, just different.
Yeah. But I mean, a lot of people who work in the industry are working in those kind of roles where it's just like, you just get, and then...
Gotta put money on the table.
And it's also like when we talked to Darcy about his film, One Punch, and it was just like, he said something that I keep bringing up and I like to think about a lot, is no one's going to... Stop waiting for permission. No one's going to give you $100 million. Just go out and do it. And, The Last Deal is kind of an example of that, where it's just like, this guy's worked in the industry for a while. He's made a lot of short films. And it's just like, I'm just going to go and do it and make a...
It's also the premise of the film. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Fortune favors the bold, right?
Yeah.
It's about that's the driving force in the film is he either has to pack up early and acknowledge that his business was a failure, due to the legalization of his business, or he can go through with the last deal, take on a lot of debt and danger, and try and make something while the opportunity is available to him.
It's like go down with the sinking ship and do nothing, or go down with the sinking ship but also kind of get into bed with some not so savory characters, but at least you're not doing nothing.
And it's interesting because he's, normally there'd be this great conflict of emotion, should I do it, should I not? And there's a little bit of that. But, often you would expect him to be like, oh, but it's so dangerous. But his reaction is, I'm good for it. I can move the product.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, no, like from the business perspective, he's confident. Because he knows the people. He's got the connections to distribute at least a little bit. And, it all goes wrong, of course, because it's a thriller drama.
Yeah.
It can't, if everything went smoothly, you don't have a film.
That would be an interesting movie. Just the happy,
like a comedy.
The happy life. What was that? Perfect Days, like that, but with weed. Like just a guy who works on a weed farm.
Like a slice of life.
Yeah, that would be cool.
That's a different film. Yeah,
actually, the weed farm they shot those scenes at where like there's a huge field, and I'm like, that was like a real working farm.
Yeah.
And they had to obviously.
I would have said they would have got permission then.
Well, yeah.
they snuck on there.
No, but apparently, like the people working the field and the guy they talked to, like that's the real guy who owns the place. So they're like,
cool.
Yeah. And that obviously lends to the reality of the movie, and also like, yeah, you don't have to spend $1 million like planting fake
do
cannabis
Christopher
trees.
Nolan style.
I plant all the corn, but then
all
he
the-
sold it.
You plant all the weed to sell it. Get a dispensary license.
We're talking about how nice the movie looks. It was shot in 8K.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And that allowed him, from an interview with the director, he said, "We shot the last deal in 8K, which gave us a lot of room to play if we wanted to reframe or punch in tighter. The coloring process was also greatly improved as we move into 8K because there's more information to uncover in each frame. We can really push your lighting."
Good thing about this movie, it didn't have that grey, brown, ugly, piss yellow
It looked
color
like
that a lot of Hollywood movies
It
have
looked
now.
like how 90s movies looked. I know that's such an awkward thing
Yeah.
to say.
I mean,
there were some of the nighttime scenes with the lights of
the
LA.
neon,
Looked real nice.
There's like, it's also like, because I was talking about the gritty 70s crime drama, which is this movie is definitely inspired by, and also like Michael Mann. Like this movie has like a synthy score.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And there's the shots of them driving at night, and there's the neon lights and whatever, and the LA kind of street.
Fantastic, yeah.
Yeah, and it's very Michael Mann. I think that's a very deliberate inspiration as well.
Yeah.
And the synth score by Tony Fiala is also really cool as well, which that adds to the prestige of a movie that could have easily...
I mean, this Digital Journal interview with the director as well also echoes what Darcy was saying for young and aspiring filmmakers. He says, you're not going to learn anything by just talking about it or moving from one project to the next without finishing it. The technology is there. Go and take your chances. Once you finish the movie and submit it to festivals, what have you got to lose?
Yeah.
But that goes with everything as well, you know what I mean? Like, you don't achieve anything just by dreaming about it.
You're not...
As,
you miss...
As the beef says,
you
just do it.
Just do it, yeah. I was going to say you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Yeah.
Michael Scott said that.
Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott, Abe Lincoln. But yeah, also the camera, because of the low budget and the kind of quick guerrilla nature of like shooting on the street without permission and whatever, they couldn't set up lights and stuff like that. So, like,
did they pick locations based on what they wanted to achieve with lighting, or do you reckon they kind of worked around it?
I don't know. Actually, we should
email them back and be like, we have some questions.
We could probably get a director with Jonathan. We could probably get an interview with the director Jonathan Salemi and
even if it's
talk
just
to him
written,
one time.
we can just post it out.
If they get an Australian release date, maybe we can do like
we'll hit them up again and be like, we have questions. Yeah, we're very interested.
But like because they had to shoot with available lighting, which for any camera is kind of hard to do, even with the high tech new cameras. But the movie looks really good, and also, again, it just lends itself to that kind of 70s, 80s Michael Mann gritty.
I mean, it helps also that you're shooting it in California, and you have...
That, like, LA is just such a filmic city. Yeah. And I'm just...
You've got, like...
LA is like another character in this movie. I know that's a cliche thing.
But it's true.
Yeah.
Because you've got think about all what we saw in this movie, right? You've got the sort of the farm, the countryside element of it.
Yeah, the desert.
Then you've got the city, you've got the desert.
You got the LA River.
And you've got the river and the canal.
Yeah.
Like, you've got all these different visual kind of icons.
Yeah, you got
LA.
that tunnel. I don't know what that tunnel's called, but it's in every movie.
Yeah, but you've got all of that as well, and that kind of lends to the... perception that you're seeing something real high class.
I was thinking,
really
I'm like,
kind of
you could shoot this
iconic,
movie. You could shoot this movie in Melbourne, and it would look cool. But I don't know. There's just something about LA.
It's got that variety of landscape. It's got that variety of tone.
It's because LA is such an iconic city.
Yeah,
like that. That's like, even the
maybe if all the movies ever for the last 100 years were made in Melbourne, we'd be saying the same thing about Melbourne. Yeah. But I don't know. I feel like it's just something special about it. Even even if we hadn't seen every movie ever that has been shot in LA, I don't think the way Melbourne's built, just different vibes.
Keep in mind, California's also achieved a kind of mythic status.
True.
So even though it's like, it's famous because we see it all the time. It's where movies are made. Chinatown, for example. Shot in LA. All these amazing movies shot in LA. But LA's also developed this character of its own, culturally speaking, over the last 100 years or whatever. So it's like you already have these preconceived ideas about California before we even press play on the film.
True.
So it's like it leans into those. It leans into like the the when they go to the it's not a lake, it's like the
LA River, yeah.
the LA River, and
the canal.
Yeah.
to me that brings up memories of Chinatown, and
Yeah.
I mean suddenly you're working with that
True.
imaginary map.
Yeah, but I mean, we don't, even if that location had never been shot in any movie ever before,
It's iconic.
I mean, we have similar kind of some concrete kind of canals, but nothing like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
So if we saw that on film, you'd be like, wow, that's a cool location. And just the way the houses are built on the hills, and it's just like, it's a filmic city, I guess.
Yeah.
And they use it to their advantage. And the fact that they were kind of doing this quickly and cheaply, especially like there's scenes shot on the tarmac with the plane, and I'm like, oh wow, they really went all out and just kind of. It's quite ambitious for what they achieved.
I mean, again,
but their reach didn't exceed their grasp.
No,
like they kind of did.
But that's a feature of LA, because you've got all of these things that for us are kind of outlandish almost.
Yeah, and the good thing about LA is
because LA is so big.
Oh,
and
yeah,
there's such a center of, we'll call it creative power.
and everyone in LA wants to be in a film.
Oh, it's also it's good. Everyone who lives there works in the industry, so
So it's easy to email
different.
someone and be like, "Hey, I noticed you got this
Yeah,
plane.
yeah. Do you mind
Can
if
we
I
just
just-
can we just record a scene with a guy standing in front of your plane?"
Yeah.
Can we film here for just 15 minutes?
But that's
You know
Like,
what
if
I
I
mean?
pay you 10 grand, can you take my actor for a flight over the countryside?
I can't remember. I can't remember if we were talking about on air or if I was talking about with someone else. It's like, but if you have something, like use it to your advantage.
Yeah.
So even though we don't live in LA and we don't have a lot of Hollywood connections or studio movie making connections, it's like, oh, we have a radio station. Oh, we could use that for something one time. So I think, this is a case of it too. It's, even though it's LA and it's like the best city for movie making or whatever, they still probably had to pull a lot of favors and network a lot. But also, like I said, they're people who work in the industry for a long time and have experience. So it's like, it's not like they didn't know what they were doing.
Oh, 100%. It's obviously the crew behind this movie is fantastically talented. Everyone
yeah.
involved is basically the top of their game in this movie, I would argue. Just to do what they've done with the resources available it's
impressive.
It's impressive.
Yeah. Like I was saying with the kind of gritty 70s stuff and the crime thriller and the Michael Mann aspect. Remember a few weeks ago I was talking about Lord of War, and I was talking about how, in the late 90s, early 2000s, there were all these like crime and drug related movies like Blow and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they don't really make those anymore.
Yeah.
The Last Deal is
Heaps.
closer to that kind of type of movie that you don't get mainstream releases for anymore. Sometimes you get Netflix a couple. But I think this is like...
We whinge about this all the time on this show.
Yeah.
For listeners at home, I'm sorry, we're going to do it again. These kind of movies aren't that successful, at least in Australia, with wide theatrical releases anymore.
No, they don't
Again,
make...
They don't make
When's the
these
last time you saw a big budget A-list star starring in a like drug movie?
Exactly. Our boy Martin Scorsese recently came out again fighting against this in Hollywood, saying that
we had to go to
unfortunately it's
Netflix to make Irishman. You had to go to Apple to make Killers of the Flower Moon.
He recently, in an interview he came out against it again. He's like, every single movie coming out of the theaters has to be a... He didn't name drop comics in this.
Yeah.
He just said everything has to be a massive franchise.
Yeah.
Killing the
industry.
It's killing the movies.
Yeah.
Nothing's a movie anymore. Everything
it's all
has to
content.
It's all content or global franchise driven kind of.
Yeah,
IP.
we've talked about it so much before.
And this, this kind of movie would have been amazing. It would have been
in the 90s. This movie would have made bang.
Yeah, it would have made
pretty much any time before 2008. This movie could have gotten a pretty wide release.
And it would have been popular.
Yeah,
because it's 90
I mean,
minutes.
it doesn't have any A-list stars, but I mean,
but it ticks all the boxes. Especially it's 90 minutes. It's tight. It doesn't waste any time. It does everything it needs to.
Yeah,
it's like a crime drug movie. It ticks the boxes. It should. Again, 20 years ago, this movie would have been massive. But now it's not a Marvel movie. Or it's not like a franchise movie. It's not an IP movie. Sorry.
You can't make 100 sequels and video games.
You don't know. There might be a Last Deal 2 cooking.
That's it. There was Last Deal TV series. A Last Deal. Can we get the merch? Is there merch?
A mini series spin-off.
Last Deals.
The last the old James Cameron aliens trick where the S is a dollar sign.
The
last deal.
Two deal.
The last deal, I swear. Yeah. The last deal for real.
The lastest deal.
The lastest deal. Oh god.
The last deal, the final chapter.
Two deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said that.
Yeah, I didn't hear it. Yeah.
But the last deal, Tokyo Cannabis Drift. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are terrible names.
I
I would have said send us a check, but no.
Don't put it past
The last
Hollywood.
deal, hydroponic boogaloo.
Yeah, that's a good one actually.
Yeah, but
I'm sorry.
No.
you know, by all rights, this movie should, you know, many years ago would be a hit.
I
and
know.
now it kind of gets lost in. It probably get lost in streaming.
Sometimes
That's a shame.
Oh yeah. Sometimes we talk about lower budget movies or whatever, and we say, "Oh, this is good," for what it is. But I don't mean to say that condescendingly
it's like
or
working
whatever.
within your means.
Yeah, it's like
No, I wouldn't change much about this movie.
No, it's like I genuinely enjoyed this movie, and the fact that it was shot for the to the constraints it was, I'm like, it makes it more impressive.
Yeah.
But also, just like watching the first 10 minutes where they're introducing everything,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this reminds me of Blow with Johnny Depp when or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, we don't get these movies, and it made me excited because I was like, we don't really get new movies like this anymore.
I really liked it. You know what I thought was very impressive? The editing and the pacing were fantastic.
It's
not a long film. It's like 90 minutes or something.
Yeah.
But it barrels along.
The pacing's good. We accepted. We graciously accepted the opportunity to review this movie before we knew what it was. I'm just like, yeah, sure, we can do that. Sounds like a good title. Went down, and then when I went to watch it, I'm like, I'm really surprised. This is not what I like. I didn't know anything about it before I watched it. Which is how we like to go into movies.
Oh
ideally. I was very surprised. Like sometimes we will watch a movie and we'll think to ourselves, I wish this movie had more money. It's good for, as you said, it's good for what it is. Like this movie, it's like you could tell me it had a much larger budget. I'm like, cool.
That's true too.
I mean, it's like we don't say that to demean the movie or to say it could be better. Like this movie, as we said, it was made for a micro budget, but it didn't need anything more.
Like if
it was
for me,
perfect as it
if you
is.
told me it cost $10 million, I'd be like, yeah, looks like it.
And that's a testament
That's
to all the
high praise,
talented people who worked on the movie, because how many movies have we seen that costed 10, 20, 30, $100 million
awful.
and look like they costed $5?
Exactly.
Whereas you get some people who know what they're doing, and you get the complete opposite.
I mean, I wonder if it's because it's a micro budget. You know, how much control was it? All just the writer, director, and team? Like, you know, there was no overreach. There was no studio interference.
That's the thing, is there's no studio interference. But I mean, there's a small crew, obviously. So, but yeah, the people who work, they were all working.
When you leave people,
talented.
when you leave people alone to do what they do,
not
best,
always.
Not always.
Yeah.
But in a lot of cases, if you leave, you know, the talent alone to make the movie that they want to make, then it's probably going to be better than if you're giving them notes about more CG.
We talked about
more blood, X, Y, and Z.
Yeah,
that's another thing I like about this film is that it only uses violence.
It's not gratuitous.
It's not gratuitous, and
there's
it's
some
like
nudity and some violence, but it's not.
It's minor.
With some gangster movies, they want to make it a point where it's like, look how violent the underbelly is. Bang,
I was
bang, bang.
I was expecting this to be more of like
an action film,
one of those straight to DVD, like more tits, more blood, more shootouts.
It's quite restrained in that aspect, where it's like there's a little bit of violence, a little bit of fist fights, there's some gunshots, but on the whole, like I said, it's like a more businessman just trying to make
a crime drama that turns into a crime thriller that has some action at the end.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I've heard people talking about it's an action movie. I think even the directors mentioned it's an action movie.
It has action elements.
That's really the climax of the movie. Is
because there's a lot of it's a character drama, really.
It's close to
so crime thriller. I think is a good because it's like race against time, and he has to get
he's got to
save. Crime drama / thriller.
I think that's fair.
I do have a negative.
Uh-oh.
No. So anyone who's listened to this show before knows I hate narration.
I think
it's lazy. And a lot of movies use that as a crutch, and they use it when they don't need to. This movie has narration at the beginning and narration at the end. And I understand why they did it. Like, sets a lot of stuff up at the beginning, and it wraps a lot of things up at the end. But I would have cut it down a little bit. I would have, show don't tell. And I mean, who am I? I'm a nobody. I've never done anything with my life. I suck. But
then, I mean, look, I say that. But if
Jonathan, actually, we should talk. We should email him. Can we talk to Jonathan? Because I want to ask him this. On your next movie, send me the script and I'll do a bit of a.
Wow.
Get a bit of red.
But
red
how much
pen
of this? How much of that is because they wanted to keep the movie runtime at 90 minutes?
It does keep it tighter, but I feel like, especially at the end, I won't give away the ending, but there is a scene where he's like, it's like narrating what happened at the end, look, and I was like, you could do that visually easily.
There's probably some cut stuff out of this movie that was left on the editing floor. Also, I feel like
because of the time and the budget, it's like, all right, we're not going to.
Yeah, exactly. I think the narration, I would give the narration a pass in this movie.
It didn't ruin the movie.
No, but also it's necessity, man. It's like you want to keep the movie 90. The movie's 91 minutes. You want to keep it 90. You want to keep it short. If you show don't tell the narration, instead it might move it another to 100 minutes, or it might take another week of shooting.
It wouldn't have.
So it's like.
But there are just some bits where I was like,
Yeah, but I think I can understand why.
Considering the final product, I think that's an acceptable compromise. Considering that the movie does look outstanding. Like I said, it's very tightly paced. Well acted. There's not a lot of fat on it at all.
I mean, who knows? In another universe, there could have been a version with less narration or no narration where we're just like, this movie's too long and it drags.
The grass is always greener.
Yeah. But just me personally, who's like, every time I hear it, I'm like, you have to do a really good job.
If the movie ever comes out, we'll edit it ourselves and we'll just take the narration out for James. But here's your copy.
No, but you have to replace it with something. It can't just be
silence.
Yeah, I mean, you could do it like a music montage or Cause I got high.
Just for Afro Man in those scenes. But it'll still be ruined because you'll know. You'll be like, there's narration here, damn it. Look, we might be back with more after this.
We might be. You always say that.
I don't always say it. Sometimes it slips out. All right.
I hope we're back.
We will be
after
back
this break.
with more after this.
Depends what happens during the break.
Depends what happens. If we get into a fist fight, we'll be back after this. Yeah, we're back on the Tuesday review.
We made it back.
We did make it back. By the skin of our nose.
Hey man, it's
the struggles we had to.
Them streets is
the streets are dangerous.
You think running an illegal marijuana business is hard? Try doing a radio show.
Yeah,
try struggling with community radio. No. So the last deal is a very good movie. Unfortunately, it's not out for release in Australia. We're hoping it will come out.
Before we go on though, like I just want to talk about the cast because. Everyone does a good job, and Anthony Molinari as Vince, the main character, he's great. A lot of the actors in this movie were like Hollywood stuntmen, so they have a lot of experience in the industry, and they've acted before. But this is like their kind of first starring roles, I'd assume. First lead role, Anthony's first lead role, and Sala Baker, who is a New Zealand stuntman. He was in Lord of the Rings. He played like the head Uruk-hai, and a bunch of other like main orcs. I think he even played Sauron, like in the big armored suit. I think so. He's the bad guy in this movie, and it's just cool because they all do a really good job, and also like it's just cool to see people who look more normal than like your typical Hollywood stars, and it lends to that old school 70s 80s kind of gritty crime movie.
I like seeing my policeman all sweaty and hairy, and a bit fat,
like James Caan with his like curly hair and his curly chest hair coming out of his, and he's just like everyone's smoking, and it's just like, oh yeah, this is cool.
It's real. It's
now it's all like all the Chris's, the Pratt and the Evans, and it's like, and they're all perfect.
The Pines,
and it's like these aren't real people; they're Ken dolls.
That's it.
Yeah, they're very obviously from Hollywood.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that guy's a movie star.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
right.
Not that's like I like all those actors,
yeah,
but
yeah.
it's just like it's just sometimes it's cool to and not. I don't mean to say like all these guys in the movie are cave trolls.
No. They're all
I'm
good
just saying
looking
it's like
people, yeah.
they're all good looking, but it's like they look more normal and they look like
They look like characters. They don't look like actors. To
I
me.
mean, character actors.
I mean, again, while we're shitting on Marvel tonight, it's a Marvel problem where it's like you've got all these actors.
Well, that's because superheroes always look like ideal
Idealized.
human
Yeah.
specimens.
Yeah,
Like,
but like at some point, I think Chris Evans was complaining recently about how his kind of acting career didn't take a hit because he's massive. But when people look at him, they see Captain America. They don't see the actor.
oh,
Chris
that's
Evans.
definitely part of it. I think we even talked about it with
Yeah,
Robert
and
Downey
so
Jr.
it's
and
good- and Iron Man.
Oppenheimer. Yeah.
And yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's good to see some actors that haven't been, I guess, kind of like you see certain actors these days, and it's hard. It's not hard, but it's harder to envision them as the character they are because they're so
Sometimes
well known.
it depends. Yeah, it also depends on the actor
So
and
it's good
the
that you can get
transformation.
pulled into
Like
the
because
movie a little bit.
I mean, this movie is also. I heard Jonathan Salemi, the director of Last Deal, talking about Hell or High Water, that crime movie with Chris Pine. I mean, Chris Pine's a good actor, and he's good in that movie. So it's like it's not like Hollywood actors can't.
Yeah.
But it's just like I liked because when I was watching the movie, I'm like, oh, this feels like an old school crime movie that I would really dig. The fact that a lot of the actors do, like Mike Ferguson, the guy with the tattoos, it's like, oh, these feel like real guys. They feel like real crime criminals. And
I think at the end of the day, I think it's just nice that I haven't seen them 10,000 times.
And also,
all the media all over the place.
Yeah, you don't
I
have
can get absorbed into the movie a bit easier.
Yeah, I mean, there's different types of actors where it's just like you got like The Rock, where it's like you see a movie and it's like you're gonna watch The Rock, and it's like
plays
okay,
The Rock, yeah.
But then you got other like you got your Gary Oldmans who completely disappear into the role,
exactly.
and then you got in between actors. So it's like it's not a bad thing either way. It's just something I noticed when I was like, oh, this is cool. This is like an old movie I would like. That lent it. The actors in this movie lent that quality because it's like they felt like those kind of 70s guys that you don't really see in movies as much anymore. Or like Callum I was just gonna say, like character actors are the interesting looking actors but only play supporting roles, and then you've got your leading man type. Your
exactly.
But and also
Very well done casting. In this film.
and also like we said, Anthony's accent is awesome.
We like a good Boston accent.
Yeah. And also he's like always vaping in this movie. He's wearing like V-necks. Vapes and V-necks.
He's from LA, okay?
Name of the episode?
Vapes and he's like, my car. Get the cab because hard to find a car park.
I live in an apartment. Yeah,
I live in my apartment.
It's a nice apartment.
I'm in my 40s. Still live in my apartment.
Hey, I mean, with the conditions.
No shade.
Today,
It's
no
awesome.
No shade.
Probably cost of living's gone up.
That's
man.
it.
Oh yeah, I'd love to live in an apartment. I'm looking at
In LA,
apartments at the moment.
in
LA.
LA. Yeah.
And that apartment was nice too.
Yeah,
What's he
exactly.
complaining about?
Yeah.
Excuse
With
me.
his amazingly gorgeous girlfriend in the middle of LA.
Life's so hard.
Oh, so hard. Oh,
That's
poor
not
weird dealer.
struggling. Yeah,
That's the sequel. It's like calling Vince out on his crap.
yeah.
It's like,
That's it.
that was
You did this to yourself, Vince.
Yeah,
Your life
yeah.
isn't that bad.
I can either try my family business or go back to being really successful in the industry I was in before.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Man. Yeah. Some other notes on this film before we leave you tonight. It's featured in New York Times 5 action films to stream now. Obviously, this is an American-focused sort of notes. It's been released in limited theaters nationwide in the United States. It's currently on Stars and Encore for streaming in the United States. Its UK release was on September the 1st this year. Its Irish release was September the 8th this year. And it's in consideration for the Independent Spirit Awards in 2024.
nice.
Look, hopefully it does well enough that it gets picked up by a distributor for an Australian release, if that's streaming or limited theatrical, who knows. But
I think it'll come to streaming here eventually, but it just might take a while.
like all smaller movies.
Yeah, but if you're in the US, you can get on video on demand now. You can rent or buy it on Prime Video, I'm pretty sure. And there's the release in the UK and Ireland. But keep an eye on our social media, and if it does get an Australian release, we'll
Hook you up.
We'll let you know.
Also follow the
And-
movie on social media. It has a pretty active social media page as well.
Yeah, you can go
It's
to.
on Twitter or X. It's at The Last Deal Film.
Yep.
It's probably something
On Instagram, I think it's just at Last Deal Movie. Let me check. I wrote it down. Where is it? Where is it? This is a great podcast.
Yes,
This is great radio.
Great radio. That's it. A
Yeah.
bit of awkward silence.
Yeah, on Instagram it's The Last Deal at The Last Deal Movie, or just go to thelastdealmovie.com and they have all their social media links there.
Keep an eye on it. Our loyal local listeners maybe harass them for an Australian release. Or on there, get
Well,
on
I'm
their
sure the filmmakers would love to release it everywhere. It's
look,
just
they
getting.
approached us for a review. I don't know if they realised that we live outside their movies.
Maybe they didn't know we were. No, surely they would have. I don't know if they would have listened or they just saw our. Maybe they just saw our social media and thought we were American.
That's it. I'm going to go back through the correspondence and we'll see. Do they realise?
Yeah. Did they say howdy, partner?
Yes.
Thinking we're but anyway, if it does get an Australian release, that would be awesome, and we'll let listeners know, and hopefully we'll stay in touch with the filmmakers and we can maybe get
some of our questions answered.
Yeah.
They do know that it's not released in Australia.
I remember we talked to them about it. Yeah, but did they know that when they initially
probably not
said, "Hey, do you want to?"
Yeah.
But yeah, shout out to them. Thank you very much. We really appreciate the opportunity. And yeah, we'll stay in touch with them and keep an eye on our social media. Follow the movie as well. And there'll be more.
We need to get behind movies like this.
Yeah, especially because we always we got to put our money where our mouth is. We complain.
We complain that movies like this don't exist.
Yeah,
and then we have to say something when they do.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So
look, we would support this movie if it was available here. Luckily we were still able to see the movie to do this review.
Yeah, but that's why if it does come out here, we'll kind of revisit it because it's like we can finally support it properly.
Yeah, exactly.
And people and our local listeners can, because I think we have a few overseas listeners, but I don't know how many.
Allegedly, our one Virginian listener. You can see it.
Oh, Minnesota, wasn't it?
Minnesota, no.
Wasn't there? It was one guy in Minnesota, one guy in Virginia.
I don't know.
Go support this movie.
American listeners, go support this movie. It's available everywhere.
The Last Deal.
The Last
TheLastDealMovie.com. Check it out.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Yeah, our social media is at Tuesday Review AU on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. We also are starting a YouTube channel very, very, very soon, so keep an eye out for that. We're going to PAX in just over a week, I think.
Yep.
So we're going to have lots of video game convention coverage and game developer review interviews and game reviews and just little spotlights,
all kinds of stuff
all sorts of crazy stuff. And we're hoping to, if that goes well, fingers crossed, knock on wood, we're hoping to go to more conventions, more film festivals, talk to more filmmakers, do more interviews, and grow from there.
Again, you miss all the shots you don't take.
Yeah, exactly. What did you say, Callum?
Yeah.
They say it in the movie. Fortune favors the bold.
Yeah.
So
for our American listeners, look. So Spotify gives us, vague cities and stuff like that where we can see.
Yeah.
Well, allegedly, we have listeners in Virginia, Oregon, and Minnesota.
Okay.
Please go support the film.
Is weed legal in Oregon? It feels like a place weed would be legal.
I don't know. But if
anyway,
you are
watch
a listener,
the movie.
If you are a listener in those cities specifically where you can watch it, please do.
Yeah, check it out. And yeah, make sure you're following us at Tuesday Review AU because there's going to be lots of exciting
stuff coming up soon. We'll be back next week. Adios, cousins.